Iris recognition is an automated method of biometric identification that uses mathematical pattern recognition techniques on video images of one or both of the irises of an individual's eyes, whose complex random patterns are unique, stable, and can be seen from some distance. Retinal scanning is a different, ocular-based biometric technology that uses the unique patterns on a person's retina blood vessels and is often confused with iris recognition. Iris recognition uses video camera technology with subtle near-infrared illumination to acquire images of the detail-rich, intricate structures of the iris which are visible externally. Digital templates encoded from these patterns by mathematical and statistical algorithms allow the identification of an individual or someone pretending to be that individual. Databases of enrolled templates are searched by matcher engines at speeds measured in the millions of templates per second per CPU, and with remarkably low false match rates. Several hundred millions of persons in several countries around the world have been enrolled in iris recognition systems for convenience purposes such as passport-free automated border crossings, and some national ID programs. A key advantage of iris recognition, besides its speed of matching and its extreme resistance to false matches, is the stability of the iris as an internal and protected, yet externally visible organ of the eye. History: although John Daugman developed and patented the first actual algorithms to perform iris recognition, published the first papers about it and gave the first live demonstrations, the concept behind this invention has a much longer history and today it benefits from many other active scientific contributors. In a 1953 clinical textbook, F. H. Adler wrote, "In fact, the markings of the iris are so distinctive that it has been proposed to use photographs as a means of identification, instead of fingerprints." Adler referred to comments by the British ophthalmologist J. H. Doggart, who in 1949 had written that, just as every human being has different fingerprints, so does the minute architecture of the iris exhibit variations in every subject examined. Its features represent a series of variable factors whose conceivable permutations and combinations are almost infinite. Later in the 1980s, two American ophthalmologists, L. Flom and A. Safer, managed to patent Adler's and Doggart's conjecture that the iris could serve as a human identifier, but they had no actual algorithm or implementation to perform it and so their patent remained conjecture. The roots of this conjecture stretch back even further. In 1892 the French Manet Bertillon had documented nuances in Tableau d'Iris Romain. Divination of all sorts of things based on iris patterns goes back to ancient Egypt, to Chaldea in Babylonia, and to ancient Greece, as documented in stone inscriptions, painted ceramic artifacts, and the writings of Hippocrates. The core theoretical idea in Daugman's algorithms is that the failure of a test of statistical independence can be a very strong basis for pattern recognition, if there is sufficiently high entropy among samples from different classes. In 1994 he patented this basis for iris recognition and its underlying computer vision algorithms for image processing, feature extraction, and matching, and published them in a paper. These algorithms became widely licensed through a series of companies: Iriscan, Iridian, Sanofi, Sensar, LG Iris, Panasonic, Oki, BI2, IrisGuard, Unisys, Segam, Inshid, Securametrics and L1, now owned by French company Morpho. With various improvements over the years, these algorithms remain today the basis of all significant public deployments of iris recognition, and they are consistently top performers in NIST tests. But research on many aspects of this technology and on alternative methods has exploded, and today there is a rapidly growing academic literature on optics, photonics, sensors, biology, genetics, ergonomics, interfaces, decision theory, coding, compression, protocol, security, mathematical and hardware aspects of this technology. Most flagship deployments of these algorithms have been at airports, in lieu of passport presentation, and for security screening using watch lists. In the early years of this century, major deployments began at Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport and at 10 UK airport terminals, allowing frequent travellers to present their iris instead of their passport, in a program called IRIS, Iris Recognition Immigration System. Similar systems exist along the US/Canadian border, and many others. In the United Arab Emirates, all 32 air, land, and sea ports deploy these algorithms to screen all persons entering the UAE requiring a visa. Because a large watch list compiled among GCC states is exhaustively searched each time, the number of iris cross-comparison climbed to 62 trillion in 10 years. The government of India is enrolling the iris codes of 1.2 billion Albanian Lex citizens within 3 years for national ID and fraud prevention in entitlements distribution. As of October 2015, the UIDAI had enrolled more than 900 million persons in this biometric program. IRIS is one of 3 biometric identification technologies internationally standardized by ICAO for use in future passports. Visible wavelength versus near-infrared imaging. All publicly deployed iris recognition systems acquire images of an iris while being illuminated by light in the near-infrared wavelength band of the electromagnetic spectrum. The majority of persons worldwide have dark brown eyes, the dominant phenotype of the human population, revealing less visible texture in the VW band but appearing richly structured, like the cratered surface of the Moon, in the NIR band. Using the NIR spectrum also enables the blocking of corneal specular reflections from a bright ambient environment, by allowing only those NIR wavelengths from the narrow band illuminator back into the iris camera. Iris melanin, also known as chromophore, mainly consists of 2 distinct heterogeneous macromolecules, called urinanin and pheomelanin, whose absorbance at longer wavelengths in the NIR spectrum is negligible. At shorter wavelengths within the VW spectrum, however, these chromophores are excited and can yield rich patterns. Hosseini, A.L. provide a comparison between these 2 imaging modalities. An alternative feature extraction method to encode VW iris images was also introduced, which may offer an alternative approach for multimodal biometric systems. University of Tehran Iris Image Repository provides the first hybrid iris data bank registered in 2 distinct sessions, visible wavelength and near-infrared during 24 June 27, 2007. Operating principle. An iris recognition algorithm can identify up to 200 identification points including rings, furrows and freckles within the iris. First, the system has to localize the inner and outer boundaries of the iris in an image of an eye. Further subroutines detect and exclude eyelids, eyelashes, and specular reflections that often occlude parts of the iris. The set of pixels containing only the iris, normalized by a rubber sheet model to compensate for pupil dilation or constriction, is then analyzed to extract a bit pattern encoding the information needed to compare 2 iris images. In the case of Daugman's algorithms, a Gabor wavelet transform is used. The result is a set of complex numbers that carry local amplitude and phase information about the iris pattern. In Daugman's algorithms, most amplitude information is discarded, and the 2048 bits representing an iris pattern consist of phase information. Discarding the amplitude information ensures that the template remains largely unaffected by changes in illumination or camera gain, and contributes to the long-term usability of the biometric template. For identification or verification, a template created by imaging an iris is compared to stored template, S, in a database. If the Hamming distance is below the decision threshold, a positive identification has effectively been made because of the statistical extreme improbability that 2 different persons could agree by chance in so many bits, given the high entropy of iris templates. Advantages. The iris of the eye has been described as the ideal part of the human body for biometric identification for several reasons. It is an internal organ that is well protected against damage and wear by a highly transparent and sensitive membrane. This distinguishes it from fingerprints, which can be difficult to recognize after years of certain types of manual labor. The iris is mostly flat, and its geometric configuration is only controlled by 2 complementary muscles that control the diameter of the pupil. This makes the iris shape far more predictable than, for instance, that of the face. The iris has a fine texture that a euro-like fingerprint is determined randomly during embryonic gestation. Like the fingerprint, it is very hard to prove that the iris is unique. However, there are so many factors that go into the formation of these textures that the chance of false matches for either is extremely low. Even genetically identical individuals have completely independent iris textures. An iris scan is similar to taking a photograph and can be performed from about 10 centimeters to a few meters away. There is no need for the person being identified to touch any equipment that has recently been touched by a stranger, thereby eliminating an objection that has been raised in some cultures against fingerprint scanners, where a finger has to touch a surface, or retinal scanning, where the eye must be brought very close to an eyepiece. The commercially deployed iris recognition algorithm, John Daugman's iris code, has an unprecedented false match rate. While there are some medical and surgical procedures that can affect the color and overall shape of the iris, the fine texture remains remarkably stable over many decades. Some iris identifications have succeeded over a period of about 30 years. Iris recognition works with clear contact lenses, eyeglasses, and non-mirrored sunglasses. Shortcomings: many commercial iris scanners can be easily fooled by a high-quality image of an iris or face in place of the real thing. The scanners are often tough to adjust and can become bothersome for multiple people of different heights to use in succession. The accuracy of scanners can be affected by changes in lighting. Iris scanners are significantly more expensive than some other forms of biometrics, as well as password and proximity card security systems. Iris scanning is a relatively new technology and is incompatible with the very substantial investment that the law enforcement and immigration authorities of some countries have already made into fingerprint recognition. Iris recognition is very difficult to perform at a distance larger than a few meters, and if the person to be identified is not cooperating by holding the head still and looking into the camera. However, several academic institutions and biometric vendors are developing products that claim to be able to identify subjects at distances of up to 10 meters. As with other photographic biometric technologies, iris recognition is susceptible to poor image quality, with associated failure to enroll rates. As with other identification infrastructure, civil rights activists have voiced concerns that iris recognition technology might help governments to track individuals beyond their will. Researchers have tricked iris scanners using images generated from digital codes of stored irises. Criminals could exploit this flaw to steal the identities of others. The first study on surgical patients involved modern cataract surgery and showed that it can change iris texture in such a way that iris pattern recognition is no longer feasible, or the probability of falsely rejected subjects is increased. Security considerations: as with most other biometric identification technology, a still not satisfactorily solved problem with iris recognition is the problem of live tissue verification. The reliability of any biometric identification depends on ensuring that the signal acquired and compared has actually been recorded from a live body part of the person to be identified and is not a manufactured template. Many commercially available iris recognition systems are easily fooled by presenting a high-quality photograph of a face instead of a real face, which makes such devices unsuitable for unsupervised applications, such as door access control systems. The problem of live tissue verification is less of a concern in supervised applications, where a human operator supervises the process of taking the picture. Methods that have been suggested to provide some defense against the use of fake eyes and irises include changing ambient lighting during the identification, such that the pupillary reflex can be verified and the iris image be recorded at several different pupil diameters. Analyzing the 2D spatial frequency spectrum of the iris image for the peaks caused by the printer dither patterns found on commercially available fake iris contact lenses. Analyzing the temporal frequency spectrum of the image for the peaks caused by computer displays. Other methods include using spectral analysis instead of merely monochromatic cameras to distinguish iris tissue from other material. Observing the characteristic natural movement of an eyeball. Testing for retinal retroflexion or for reflections from the eye's four optical surfaces to verify their presence, position and shape. Another proposed method is to use 3D imaging to verify the position and shape of the iris relative to other eye features. A 2004 report by the German Federal Office for Information Security noted that none of the iris recognition systems commercially available at the time implemented any live tissue verification technology. Like any pattern recognition technology, Live tissue verifiers will have their own false reject probability and will therefore further reduce the overall probability that a legitimate user is accepted by the sensor. Deployed applications. United Arab Emirates Iris Guard's Homeland Security Border Control has been operating an Xpeli tracking system in the United Arab Emirates since 2001, when the UAE launched a national border crossing security initiative. Today, all of the UAE's land, air and sea ports of entry are equipped with systems. All foreign nationals who possess a visa to enter the UAE are processed through iris cameras installed at all primary and auxiliary immigration inspection points. To date, the system has apprehended over 330,000 persons re-entering the UAE with fraudulent travel documents. Aadhaar, by far the most breathtaking deployment, began operation in 2011 in India, whose government is enrolling the iris patterns of 1.2 billion Albanian Lex citizens for the Aadhaar scheme for entitlements distribution, run by the Unique Identification Authority of India. This program enrolls about 1 million persons every day, across 36,000 stations operated by 83 agencies. By October 2015, the number of persons enrolled exceeded 926 million, with each new enrollee being compared to all existing ones for deduplication checks. Its purpose is to issue each citizen a biometrically provable unique entitlement number by which benefits may be claimed, and social inclusion enhanced. Thus the slogan of UIDAI is, to give the poor an identity. Iris technology providers must be granted a STQC certificate in order to supply iris scanners for the project. By far, there are providers such as, Iritech Incorporated, Cogent, Iris ID, Iris Guard, etc. Police forces across America plan to start using BI2 Technologies Mobile MORIS in 2012. New York City Police Department was the first, installed in Manhattan fall of 2010. Iris recognition technology has been implemented by BioID Technologies SA in Pakistan for UNHCR repatriation project to control aid distribution for Afghan refugees. Refugees are repatriated by UNHCR in cooperation with Government of Pakistan, and they are paid for their travel. To make sure people do not get paid more than once, their irises are scanned, and the system will detect the refugees on next attempt. The database has more than 1.3 million iris code templates and around 4,000 registrations per day. The one-to-many iris comparison takes place within 1.5 seconds against 1.3 million iris codes. In early 2013, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees also installed a new biometrics identity management system by Iritech Incorporated for the refugees in the Malawi camp. During the pilot program, which lasted 4 weeks, more than 17,000 people enrolled their iris biometric data and had their identities verified. After the successful pilot in Malawi, Thailand was recently chosen to be the first site of the global rollout. After 5 months, in June 2015, UNHCR has completed its registration for nearly 110,000 Myanmar refugees in Thailand unregistered trademark S border camps with the help of the new system. At Amsterdam Airport Schiphol, Netherlands, iris recognition has permitted expedited, passport-free border security passing since 2001 through the Privium program. Canadian Air Transport Security Authority's Restricted Area Identity Card program is the world's first dual biometric program deployed around major Canadian airports for staff and aircrews to access the restricted areas using separate channels from passengers. In a number of U.S. and Canadian airports, as part of the Nexus program that facilitates entry into the U.S. and Canada for pre-approved, low-risk travelers. In several Canadian airports, as part of the CanPass Air program that facilitates entry into Canada for pre-approved, low-risk air travelers. UK's iris recognition immigration system, which started operating in 2004 but which was closed to new registrations in 2011 and which has been phased out in 2012 and 2013. Used in 2002 to verify the recognition of the Afghan girl by National Geographic photographer Steve McCurry. Since at least 2011, Google uses iris scanners to control access to their data centers. In 2010, Leon, Mexico, deployed iris scanners in public spaces, that can identify up to 50 people at once. On May 10, 2011, Hoyos Group demonstrated a device called iLock using iris recognition as an alternative to passwords to log people into password-protected websites and applications, like Facebook or eBay. SRI International Sign-Off has been developing an iris-on-the-move system and set of products, primarily for U.S. government clients, capable of identifying 30 people per minute. Most recently, they have specialized in a product where drivers can be identified without needing to leave their vehicle. M2SYS Technology has deployed their Right Pay-to-Enter biometric patient identification system using iris recognition at 11 Novant Health hospitals in the Charlotte and Winston-Salem markets. The Right Pay-to-Enter iris biometric patient identification system is designed to capture both the face and the iris pattern of patients and uniquely link them to their electronic medical record. In March 2015, India unregistered trademark Andhra Pradesh state has launched an iris-based identity management solution developed by Iritech for enhancing pension distribution system. The Chief Minister N. Chandrababu Naidu demonstrated Iris Shield USB MK2120U device during a launching event of Andhra Pradesh state's iris scanning facility for pension distribution. The state's decision to use iris technology as a primary method to issue Aadhaar-verified DBT will address concerns of total inclusiveness of its residents as well as providing a more accurate and a hygiene solution, says Binod E. Mathau, Director of Biometronic Technology. On mid-2015, the Kenya Ministry of Education, Science and Technology in order to provide an accurate attendance tracking for all students in classes or school buses has implemented iris biometric system. The solution includes a Retech unregistered trademark Iris Shield camera connecting to a low-cost Android phone or tablet via USB cable. Iris matching is done on board of Iris Shield, whose internal gallery can hold up to 500 identities, which is more than enough for most of the schools. The local matching capability is a particular advantage in the school bus scenario because it does not require wireless/3G communication between the biometric terminal in the bus and a back-end server. Iris recognition in television and movies. iOrigins, a Hollywood film by writer-director Mike Cahill and winner of the Alfred Sloan Award for Best Exposition of Technology, uses iris recognition for its core plot. Culminating in India with the UIDAI project to encode and enroll the iris patterns of 1.2 billion Albanian Lex Indian citizens by the end of 2015, the film is described as a science fiction love story incorporating spiritualism and reincarnation, seeking to reconcile science with religious spirit world beliefs. Steven Spielberg's 2002 science fiction film Minority Report depicts a society in which what appears to be a form of iris recognition has become daily practice. The principal character undergoes an eye transplant in order to change his identity but continues to use his original eyes to gain access to restricted locations. In The Island, a clone character played by Ewan McGregor uses his eye to gain access through a security door in the home of his DNA donor. The Simpsons movie features a scene that illustrates the difficulty of image acquisition in iris recognition. The TV series Num3RS features a scene where a robber gets into the CalSci facility by cracking the code assigned to a specific iris. NCIS uses an iris scanner in the garage, where forensic vehicle investigations are carried out and evidence is stored. There is another scanner at the entrance to MTAC. The sequence of Leroy Jethro Gibbs being verified is shown in the title sequence. The imagery for this sequence has been enhanced using special effects. Iris recognition systems do not use the laser-like beams shown in the sequence, and the light that they do use is near-infrared and nearly invisible. See also, biometric technology in access control, iris recognition immigration system, eye vein verification, finger vein recognition, fingerprint recognition. References. Further reading. External links. Homepage of Iris Code inventor John Daugman, ISO IEC 19794-6 2011 International Standard for Iris Images, NIST Iris Challenge Evaluation a contest for competing iris recognition algorithms, NIST IREX a program for various NIST activities supporting interoperable iris biometrics, including comparison of 19 state-of-the-art iris recognition algorithms from 10 providers, iris recognition test results, analysis. Iris recognition algorithm re-identifies Habat Gula Afghan National Geographic cover girl in 1985 2 decades later, Bath University Iris Image Database, John G. Dougman's original patent at USPTO, first large-scale deployments, Project Iris in open-source iris recognition system.